Look at the sheer scale of the risk here. When you are laying down a structural pass on a multi-ton frame, a single bad bead doesn't result in a simple callback. It means the integrity of the whole build is on the line. Now, imagine you land a residential package out in Lake Las Vegas. The spec sheet includes a custom courtyard gate, but it also tacks on a heavy structural steel stair. To you, that's all steel. It all goes on one invoice. But while you see a single continuous job, your insurance carrier and the state licensing board see two completely different risk profiles. This diagram shows the exact split. On one side, you have the ornamental classification, like Nevada's C14C, covering that courtyard gate. On the other, the structural side, C14B, covering the heavy steel stair. If you tell your agent you only do ornamental work, you will see an immediate benefit. Rating your whole business under that ornamental class results in significantly lower upfront insurance premiums. But if that structural stair fails on the job, and your policy is strictly classed for ornamental metal, the carrier can completely deny the claim. To them, you misrepresented the work you actually do. A denied claim means you are paying for the disaster entirely out of pocket. And once the dust settles, the state board can suspend your contractor's license for working outside your classification. The only reliable way to protect your business and actually satisfy a general contractor's certificate requirements is to correctly match your policy stack and your license to the specific physical scope of the steel you are melting. That structural divide gets even trickier when you cross state lines. Assuming a welding card in one state translates cleanly to the next is a fast way to get a bid thrown out. Look how process welding splits into specific regulatory paths depending on the state. In California, C60 covers process welding, C51 covers structural frames, and C23 covers ornamental metal. Contrast that with Arizona, where C60 is actually finish carpentry. To do process welding, you need C56. Navigating this maze lets you chase larger commercial packages across the Southwest, but handing a general contractor a certificate with the wrong state code guarantees your bid goes straight into the trash. Up in Utah, the state folds things together differently. They use the S220 carpentry and flooring card. Despite the name, holding an S220 card legally authorizes you to erect steel and weld metal members under the Division of Professional Licensing rules. But Utah includes a strict financial catch. The state requires a hard general liability floor of $1 million per occurrence and $2 million aggregate to hold that S220. If you try to apply or renew your license using a policy that still sits at the old $100,000 limits, the state will immediately stall your application. Relying on standard industry assumptions instead of pulling the exact codes for the jurisdiction turns a one job into a regulatory and financial trap. Getting the license classification right is only half the battle. You also have to build out the policy stack that actually protects your operation in the field. This checklist covers core requirements: general liability, workers' comp, auto, inland marine, and professional liability. Your auto policy only protects the truck while driving. The moment you pull your welder out, auto coverage stops. You need inland marine to cover equipment stolen overnight. Then there is the workers' comp piece. A lot of solo shops file a no-employee exemption to avoid the high premiums of carrying a policy. The limitation there is absolute. The minute you hire even one part-time helper to grind or fit, that exemption is completely voided. If you operate in California, keep an eye on the calendar. Universal workers' compensation kicks in on January 1st, 2028, correcting the many online guides that misprint 2026. Cutting overhead by skipping inland marine or workers' comp doesn't eliminate your risk. It just transfers the entire financial burden of an injury or a stolen rig directly to your personal bank account. Even with a $1 million general liability policy in hand, you have to know what that policy will actually pay for when a job goes sideways. Look at the excluded zone. GL excludes damage to the piece you're welding. It covers completed operations, like a roof collapsing months later. But due to the care, custody, or control exclusion, it provides zero coverage for the beam itself while you work on it. If you warp the steel with a bad pass or burn through a custom rail, buying the replacement material is an out-of-pocket job cost. And if the owner says your weld missed the architectural spec or failed to follow American Welding Society procedures, general liability steps aside entirely. You need professional liability to cover those workmanship disputes. Exposure spikes during occupied hot work. A stray spark igniting stored material in an adjacent bay triggers a massive property claim. If your policy isn't explicitly rated for the specific procedures you follow and the fire exposures of the environments you work in, you are effectively self-insuring your most expensive risks. Welding contractor insurance is never a one-size-fits-all product. It is a sliding scale dictated entirely by the materials you melt and the state you operate in. This matrix maps out exactly what you need. You have to match your specific profile to the corresponding state specs and policy endorsements. For the solo ornamental shop holding a C14C or C24 card, you need basic general liability, inland marine to schedule your shop tools, and a sharp eye on those care, custody, and control exclusions. Step over to the structural and commercial erector holding a C14B, C51, or A11, and the requirements become far more rigorous. Structural crews cannot survive on generic policies. You must demand professional liability for any AWS failures and carry a high-limit umbrella policy to satisfy commercial general contractors. You also need exact workers' comp coding. Mixing erection revenue into a rail class is how you trigger a catastrophic business-ending audit bill at the end of the year. Your best defense is absolute honesty with your agent. Tell them the biggest structural frame you intend to bid and the hottest month you plan to weld outside. Bidding a massive structural beam under a cheap ornamental card doesn't save you premium money. It just ensures that you will be working entirely without a safety net when the inevitable claim happens.